Hello, I'm Nikki Watson, and I'm here with my friend Lorie Ladd, and I'm so excited. I thank you, Lorie, for being here.
Yay! I'm excited.
Yay! On 11/11.
Yes.
And I just want to share that I met Lorie on Instagram, and I was very much taken by your presence, your authenticity, and just I felt like you were speaking to all the things that I felt and that I wanted to bring to the surface. And it's funny when you connect with somebody and they're they are saying all the things that you feel like you want to say, but maybe you don't. Like, I love talking about emotions and about how this is a really important time right now, and ascension and different dimensions and all these really super sacred special things. And I felt like whenever I saw your post on Instagram, I'm like, oh. So I feel so excited. So I knew that when I was doing this that I had to talk with you, and I'm just so thankful for you talking with us and sharing your message so that we can just really invoke this conversation. So I would love for you to introduce yourself and just share.
Yes. Well, Nikki, first of all, thank you for reaching out. I love talking, so this is awesome. I love talking about everything I believe and feel, and I just think the more we can talk about this and get this out there, the better. There's just so much happening and going on. So I'm really grateful that you reached out. I'm grateful that I'm here. This is awesome. So my business is Lorie of Lemuria. And basically I had my final awakening. So I knew when I was really young, around 13, that there was an ascension happening. So this was back in like 1988, 89. And so for my whole life, I've sort of been going in and out of this, like, oh, guess what? You're here to do something really big. And then it's also like, oh, but you're also just a regular teenager doing your life and trying to, just fit in. And so in my 20s, I went through all kinds of crazy stuff, eating disorders, alcohol abuse, all kinds of stuff. And just moving in and out of this awareness and knowingness that I was here to do something big for this ascension that nobody knew about.
Yeah.
And nobody was talking about. Now everybody talks about it. Thank God.
Yeah.
So awesome. So last year I had my final sort of like, I'm done. I'm waking up. This is the last time I'm going to do it in Mount Shasta. And that was when I sort of really came out as Lorie of Lemuria. My guides were like, oh, guess what? This is your name. And I'm like, so not happy with this, but okay, I'll go with it. I don't even know what the heck. And so that's kind of what happens, right? With spirit, they kind of just tell you things and then you just go with it. So all of a sudden I'm Lorie of Lemuria. My family's like, how do you pronounce that? What is it? I'm like, forget it. Let's just keep going, please. So anyway, so what I do is I work with the fifth dimensional, there's these beings inside Mount Shasta. There's multiple cities around the world that are inside of the earth. And they're all networked together. And they're multidimensional beings. And the city that I work with is Telos, and it's inside of Mount Shasta. Mount Shasta is in Northern California. And these beings came from Lemuria. And Lemuria is a continent that sank about 12,000 years ago. And it's a concept that people are beginning to kind of open up to. The more we awaken and the more that we shift our vibration and our frequency, the more people are like, oh, this actually could be a possibility. And so it's becoming more, people are becoming more open to this idea. Anyways, there's these beings there. And so I work really intimately with these beings, and I use them as my guidance, and I channel them. And when I work with people, I work with them and the city together. And so I bring them into the city. We do meditations, we do healings, and we do things like that. And a lot of my message right now to myself, because I'm going through it, and to everybody else, is what is this ascension? What's happening? What are we going through? What does this mean? Like, what what's normal? Like, is it okay that one day I'm feeling like super connected to myself and like, yes, life is great. And literally the next day, or maybe the next couple hours, you're feeling lost, confused. What am I doing? I want to go back to sleep. And so that's normal. And so people that are reaching out to me right now are going through that. They're like, I know I'm here to be doing something huge.
Yeah.
So there's that wake up call of like, I know I'm here for something big. So that's like kind of the first thing that happens with people is that ding, I'm here for something. What am I here for? And then the next step is, now what do I do?
Okay.
And as that's happening, the people are also starting to begin to awaken within their bodies. So there's shifts happening within your body. So it could be, physical symptoms that are happening within your body. Your eating could change, your sleeping can change, your emotions are changing, the people you hang out with are changing, the job you want to do everything is changing for people. And so that's starting to happen as well. And, there's a lot of light that's coming down onto the planet right now. And the powers that be that are sort of in charge of all of this have been careful about how much light is being brought down into us because it's intense. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Like, and I was saying this yesterday to my mom. I was like, man, I think it was my mom. If we could see, I think I said this to you last time we talked too. I was like, if we could see physically what's actually happening on the planet, like if we could actually physically see the light coming in, and then if we could actually see physically what's happening within our bodies, the changes that are happening within our bodies, we would be so much more gentle with ourselves. We would be like, oh my God, look at what's happening on this planet for all of us and the shifts that are happening. Let's be a little more gentle with ourselves. Let's be a little more okay with the ego acting up and the ego getting louder and, all of our neuroses getting stronger and our addictions becoming louder, the things we thought we were done with. Or it's like, nope, we're not quite done with that. We got a little more work to do with that. And so, I mean, there's just so much. This is just such a huge conversation, but that's in a nutshell. Oh, and you know what? The other thing that I'm really, really passionate about right now is working with people's higher selves. And so I've been working a lot of things that I do with clients as I basically channel their higher selves in a very deep way and share messages from their higher self. And so they're able to experience their higher self on a much deeper level. And connect to their higher selves, because basically one of the most important steps right now in our awakening and our ascension is the embodiment of our higher selves, and the understanding which a lot of us do understand, that we have a higher self and that it is our light body. But one of the most important components of this awakening and this ascension right now is embodying that and beginning to live with our higher selves. And so being able to get a transmission where you really feel, because they're an audio transmission, so you really get to feel the energy that I'm bringing through. And it's a way to deeply connect with your higher self in a way that you can't necessarily do on your own, but where you will be able to eventually. And so it's pretty powerful. I mean, there's so many higher self transmissions where I'm just crying because I'm feeling these women's higher selves expressing to them how much they love them and honor them and cherish them, and the emotion that comes up is it brings tears. I'm crying on these transmissions, and I'm like, sorry that I'm crying right now, but the amount of love is unbelievable. So it's just, there's just so much happening,
Yeah.
so much going on. Yeah.
So Thank you. Yeah, I think that people will probably listen to the conversation and some will be like, yes. And then other people may be like, huh, okay. Like, so I think that what I realized today, I had this thought that everybody's waking up. It's just that some of us are going to be a leader in that process, and then others are going to be and then as we have leaders, we are the leader for others. And it's not a matter of like people aren't waking up or like this whole thing of that, like people aren't waking up fast enough and we're, this planet. And it's not a matter of that. It's a matter of everybody is. It's just everybody's journey looks different, and that non-judgment that you were speaking about. I've been incorporating that more, whereas in the beginning a lot it's been like I feel like for years it's been up in my head like don't judge yourself, but I never really understood that. Lately I feel like I have. And so I wanted to touch on like the awakening that you mentioned, like in 2000, I guess at the end of 2012 there was a wave of awakening. And then there will be, because I feel like when I say my husband and I, when we first like started learning that we are creators and that this world is much more than we have been taught about, that it was January, it was his birthday of 2013. And it was that right at that time, and it just hasn't stopped. So isn't it every 4 years or is there going to be something like another wave?
Yeah, well, so 2012 was a huge, so what happened was, so in 1987 was the first, they call it a harmonic convergence, which is basically when the first big call went out to all the light workers to sort of wake up, right? Time to do your job, right? And so we as light workers at 1987, that was the first big shift. And from that point, there have been many shifts like 2012. The difference between, and the purpose of these light workers at that time were so the earth could have gone one of two ways. It could have stayed in the dark, and eventually whatever that would have looked like. So catastrophic events, it could have sunk, continents could have sunk like Lemuria and Atlantis. There's a lot of things that could have happened if it went down that timeline. The purpose of the light workers and for these wake up calls is to start bringing in the light. And the more light these light workers were able to bring in and hold on the planet, the more we were able to start shifting and shifting and shifting. So you can imagine it being like a scale, right? And so the light so the amount of work these light workers had to do, and when you say work, it's basically holding down the light. And it's not like you sit there and you're like, I'm holding down the light. You know what I mean? Like the light worker, we just do whatever it is we're doing, all right? Just being on the planet. You could be a clerk at a grocery store. You're still holding down the light. So 1987, 1990, there was a couple in the 90s. 97 was a huge one. 11/11/11 was a huge one, and then 2000. So what happened in 2007 was a huge year that no one talks about. 2007, it started to shift. So the light started to get more intense than the dark, and there was a major shift where it looked like, okay, things are going to start to go. We are going to be able to do this. 2012 was the opening for the first Ascension, basically. So basically it was the beginning of a major shift into the Ascension portal. But in 2007 is when the light went a little bit higher than the dark. I'm kind of explaining. I don't have the right word.
That's great. Yeah.
So that's when it was like, oh my God, we're actually doing it. So that was in 2007. 2012 was when it was like the gates opened and the ascension process started to really happen for the first level of volunteers. But 2012 was when a lot of the people that weren't necessarily volunteers back in the 80s and 90s that were doing their work, but are here to shift the planet, that's when they started waking up. 2012 was a huge wake up for a lot of people that agreed to come down here at this time to help with this ascension and also to ascend on the planet, but weren't necessarily the 144,000 light workers that came down to start this process back in 1987, if that makes any sense.
Yes.
So the intensity of the shifting and the amount of light coming in is tenfold. It's getting more and more intense. So when will there be another shift? I don't know. I mean, it's happening so quickly every month. Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't think there's another time where it's going to be, we're going to wait another 4 years. It's happening so quickly now and so intensely. It seems like it's every month there's more intensity.
Yeah.
As opposed to like 2012 and then, 2000, end of 2014. I don't see that happening, but I'm not an expert. I have no idea. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So would you say that as the light increases, not that it's becoming more than the darkness, but it's almost like there's a component of the darkness that's becoming more visceral and more out there. So as the light becomes greater and we become louder and more potent, so does the fear and the violence and all of that. So is it naive to say that it's almost just like how we have those emotional, breakdowns in our own lives, we know we're on the right path? I want to say that with sensitivity to the fear that people are feeling right now, because I understand that fear. I would not personally act on it as other people in the world are, but that physicality of that, it's can you speak to that, like that, that potency, and are we on the right track, and how can we kind of live in this world with that?
Yeah, it's a good segue, because it's exactly what's happening right now, right? So it's interesting as you watch the Earth, as you actually watch the physical planet shift, meaning all of this chaos is happening, the water situation. So it's the same thing that's happening within our bodies as well, right? So as we ascend and as more light comes in, the dark has to be cleared out, right? And the only way that the dark can be cleared out, and this is physically with the planet, physically with our bodies, and then what we're seeing happening in our world. It has to get cleared out. So the more light that comes in, the dark is going to come up. Louder, 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 to be transmuted into love. So if you notice what's happening, especially with the election that just happened with Mr. Donnie T, I call him, is that it's bringing up, I don't know where that came from. It's so awesome.
I love you so much. You just made everything okay for me. Okay.
So what's happening is the amount of love and light that the light workers, or whatever you want to call them, it's like it's activated everybody, right? And so we're even more focused on what we're doing here. So the darker it becomes, the more light we shed, and the more that the dark is transmuted into light and love. And it's a process that is frustrating and challenging for people to understand, because you don't want to go at it protesting and fighting. Because when you protest and fight it, you're basically giving that energy back to them. It's like you're and I'm not saying, I have to be careful, because, we all have our reactions and our emotions, and everyone can do whatever they want to do. It's beautiful. But if you look at it in a bigger sense of looking down and saying, this has to happen, and the faster this happens, the darker it gets, the quicker we're going to be able to shift it into light.
Yeah.
And so I want to be careful what I say, but it's we don't know what Donnie T could become an amazing we don't know what's going to happen with all of the light that's going to be thrown down onto this man. He's probably never going to have so much damn love in his world ever. He's not going to know what to do with the love that's going to be shed onto this man, you know? And it's the same thing that's happening within our physical bodies. So if you look at what's happening outside in our world, it's what's happening internally with our ascension, right? So as we bring in more light, our dark is coming up, you know? We're like, why am I feeling these feelings that I haven't felt in 15 years? Why are my emotions becoming so intense?
Yeah.
So in such a roller coaster fashion, where before I had it all under control, you know? It's the same thing as why is this political thing happening? Why is the drilling happening with the water, you know, in Standing Rock? Why are all these crazy really crazy things happening? And it's the same thing what's happening within our body. It's like, why is all this dark coming up? It has to, and we just have to keep loving it through. The same thing we do with our emotions. We love it to come out and heal and transmute into light. Same thing we got to do out there. It's like, okay, I see all this dark. I'm going to trust that there are powers way beyond what we imagine, right? That are holding this space for us. Yeah. And since 2012, we have to understand and trust that it will never go back down here to this dark. So that we're never going to fall again. Okay. So we're here, we're moving. No matter what happens, we've shifted. It can never go back down to the dark to shift back to where we were. And so it doesn't matter. It's like, continue doing our work, continue focusing on the light and the love that everyone's doing, and trust. It's the same thing with what's happening within our bodies. You know, you trust, you honor, you love that dark part, and you just, you know, you realize from a higher perspective that it's all going to be okay, that we're taken care of on a higher realm, and it's all here to bring us more into why we're here, you know? So it's fascinating to watch. It's challenging, right? It's challenging as well for a lot of people. But it's I don't like to say test, but it's like, okay, well, here we are. Yeah. This is the beginning, ladies and gentlemen. It's going to get a lot worse. And so this is the beginning of our, like, okay, you want to be a light worker? Here it is. Here we go. This is it, you know, like, here's the tests. Here we go. And people are stepping up, you know. And I mean, I've been off social media for 7 days to take a break. And so I did not get to hear everything that, the reactions of everything that's going on. But, you know, I know people are stepping up, and I know that, that it's activating a lot of people. So.
Can you speak to, and I want to talk about emotions a little bit too, but can you speak to your experience, because you were called to sit in silence and then you just shut off. It just so happened to be, not coincidentally, I'm sure, the time of the election, and it wasn't coincidental, I'm sure, that it ended on 11/11. So if you could just speak to your experience, and I think a lot of people look to what you've done and they say, you know, I mean, I know just on the comments on your Instagram, like, people are like, oh, like, I love that. Like, I want to do that. So if you could just speak to your experience and that call that you answered.
Yeah. So I've been told by my guides, you need to take a break from social media. And I mean, so in all honesty, I'm not obsessed, but I was addicted to Instagram. My ego got really involved, and I felt insecure, and I felt like I'm not there. I'm not where other people are. I should be doing courses. And I love Instagram to be able to share. I love sharing myself and my messages on Instagram. So there was this dichotomy of like, okay, I really need it to share myself, and it messes with my mind and my ego, and I become addicted to it. Mm-hmm. So my guides were like, shut down, stop it all. First it was 3 days, and then it became 7 days. And so I kept putting it off and putting it off. And then finally the day that I did it was last Friday. And I realized I was coming out on 11/11, which was pretty awesome. And, but what it helped me realize is we need social media. I get it. Like it's important, to stay connected and to share ourselves and our truths and our beliefs and our understandings and to have a voice. It's an important place to have a voice. But there needs to be so social media can just be like regular media, right? Yeah. You turn on the TV and it's the same messages and it's the same, you I have to be careful, but we a lot of, and you were talking about this earlier, a lot of us it's our nature to follow. It's just in our nature, we follow, we just sort of, the next thing you know, you're just kind of following and and you're just like, what happened? I'm just going with what everyone else is doing,
Yeah.
And so what's important especially for women right now, what is important for us is to find our sovereignty, find our individual sort of container, and to be able to hold ourselves and there are women out there that are doing it, and it's beautiful. Being able to hold yourselves in your own container.
Yeah.
Having your voice, having your truth, being so, what's the word I'm looking for? Solid, just so in your knowingness of who you are.
Yeah.
And that strength of knowing that you are who you are, and that you can go into this space of social media and you can be heard and you can hold people and be held and not get lost in it.
Yeah.
And not feel like, oh my God, why am I not doing all of these things? What's wrong with me? That was a beautiful post. My posts are never going to be like that. Oh my God, that person writes beautifully. My writing sucks. Oh my God, that's a great picture. How they do that? I look like crap on my pictures. Like everything that goes through my head.
Yeah.
Right? It's like, it's more stressful than like, it's like, what am I doing?
Yeah.
So it's just being able to, what I've learned these last 7 days is like, okay, what my guides told me, they said, Lorie, every single post you do going forward, you stop and you say, is this my ego?
Yeah.
Like, oh, I want to show everyone how great I am. Or are you serving somebody?
Yeah.
So your posts should only be, this is for me, I'm not talking about anybody else, but my posts should be of service. And so if I am posting something, I need to look at it and read it and say, is this being of service to somebody? Is somebody going to read this and get something from it?
Yeah.
There's a message for somebody out there, and that's why I'm posting it. And really getting the ego out of the way, because the ego, gets pretty loud for me on Instagram.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's been really interesting. And, I've just been sitting. So to just sit for like 10 minutes and not even close your eyes, just sit.
Yeah.
It's pretty amazing. Like, you're like, now what do I do? Like, it's just interesting to just sit with yourself for 10 minutes and have that moment of not even closing your eyes and meditating, just sitting and looking around the room. It's the most peaceful thing I've ever done. It's more peaceful to me than meditation.
Yeah.
Because with meditation, you kind of go somewhere, and then you get that high of like, you're with your, higher self, and you're in this other realm, and you're like, oh my God, whatever your experience is with meditation. But when you sit, you don't go anywhere. And it's really powerful. It's really peaceful. It's the most peaceful I've ever been is in those moments the last couple of days.
I love that so much. And I've kind of done that by default. Like in the morning, I'll get my cup of coffee and I'll just sit there because of my kids. And I'm like, and I guess it's because I'm watching my kids. So like my 2-year-old, like like she's sitting there. I'm like, just, we're having this experience together. Like I'm drinking my coffee, maybe reading, she's playing, and we're just kind of, cohabitating together. And it is kind of like a zoning out, because you're just being present and you're just with no stimulation and, not even reading, just, it's almost like a daydream, but just you're not going anywhere. It's just a presence and a stillness. And I noticed that I crave that. And especially with the kids, I actually got earplugs So that, like, because my kids, I recognized how much of a stimulus they are for me, that I'm the more I allow myself to dwell in the light, I recognize how sensitive I am to those sounds and everything. And it's like, they're not doing anything wrong. They're just kids. But like, my son will drop something and I'm like, I can't take it. Like, I need to like get back into, I just want to, like, can I just sit all day? Like, I just want to sit all day. I just want to sit and do nothing and be quiet and sit in stillness. Like, that doesn't seem too much to ask, but I've never done it. Like, my husband's like, you should go do something. I'm like, no, you guys should go do something while I sit and do nothing. Like, I want to do that so bad. So I'm hoping the earplugs are going to help. So I totally get what you're saying.
There's so many moms that are in that exact same place. I've heard so many moms that are like, oh my God, you're so lucky. All I want to do is just sit and do nothing. Like, they're like, I'm so jealous. That's the most amazing thing.
I know. And you know what, it's like you have to see one to appreciate the other. And it's a different experience for you as it is for me. So I'm drawn to that because I don't have it. I don't get it. Mm-hmm. I have to really cultivate it. So. Yeah,
it's interesting. Because I did have a couple girlfriends that were like, oh my God, I'm so jealous. I would love to do that. And, the first couple of days of shutting off, I was lonely.
Yeah.
And, I was like, wow, these women that have these families, they wish that they were in my shoes, but they don't understand how lucky they are to be in there with what they have. So, it's exactly what you said. It's like you always want what you don't have, and then, once you get it, I'm sitting here by myself and it's like, okay, this is great. And I love it. But I also don't have a family. Right. So it's like, we just, it's just, it is.
You know what you want because of what you've experienced. It's just, I'm coming to peace with that process of like, I'm like, oh, if I didn't have my kids, I would be doing this. Like you said, comparing yourself to other people. And I laugh at myself for even having that perspective, because it's like, this is your path and this is what it looks like. And you are who you are because of your experiences. And guess what? You signed up for it and you called it in and they called it in and they're so confident. We're all working together. Like, we're in this together. So
amen. Absolutely.
It's, it's all about perspective and understanding.
Mm-hmm.
And so what can we do, like, with our emotions? And like you said, it's like it's bubbling up, it's whatever. And just the non-judgment is what I do focus my attention on. And it seems lately I've been doing more of that. But, as far as these emotions and dwelling in the light, and we have to do the shadow work to you can't just paint over darkness with the light. We have to allow. So could you speak to, like, things that we can focus on when it comes to this just day-to-day purposeful living?
Yeah. I mean, I think the thing that just popped in is, and I'm listening to my guy. So, so he's telling me, tell her. I got it. So I don't sound crazy. He's saying that we have to be gentle with ourselves, that that this process that we're going through is an intense process. And he says to be gentle with ourselves and to be loving with ourselves, and to imagine that you are holding yourself, that you are like a child, like you're watching somebody go through this, right? And if you're watching somebody go through this transformation, all you want to do is love them through it. There's no right or wrong with what they're experiencing. There's no good or bad. They are transforming. And so if you imagine yourself as a little child, right, and you're seeing yourself out there, and you're watching this whole transformation, and you know where you're going, right? So you see that child and you're like, I see where you're going, little one. And you're doing an amazing job, and you keep going and you feel it all. And you hold that space for that child, right? So you're just holding it. That's it. You're just holding. And you're allowing, there's nothing to do. Yeah. There's absolutely nothing for us to do. We just go through it. And so he's saying to just put yourself out there as a child transforming. And all you would want to do is love that child. And so it sounds easy to say because when you're going through rage and jealousy and anger and bitterness, and I'm even feeling like, oh, things I go through are like, I'm fat, I hate my body sometimes, all those things, it's hard, right? When we're in it. But he's saying, okay, so that's that. So that is what it is. Take yourself out, pretend like you're this child, and just hold yourself and love yourself through it.
Yeah.
And be able to visualize that child just transforming. And there's no right or wrong way to do it. There's no good or bad. And by the way, there is nobody that can do it for you. There is nobody that can heal you. There is nobody that can give you the answers. It's all within us. And if we just sit with it all and just allow it to happen and have it all, we take the pressure off.
Yeah.
It's like the pressure's taken off. Be gentle with ourselves. This is a tough process. This is a challenging experience that we're all going through. This is not for the faint of heart. And remember, you said, yes, I'll do it, right?
Yeah.
So also remember, you're here for a very specific reason. I mean, Nikki, you're here to do these podcasts and to really, you're being called to show people, to share information with people, that is what you're being called to do. And so you're stepping into that. And you're beginning to do that, and all the stuff that comes up in doing it, like, oh, am I doing it right? Is this the right way? This sounds stupid. Whatever those things are, beautiful. Just part of your transformation. It's awesome. Okay, great. But you just keep going and you keep doing it. And we're all going to be doing that. We're all going to sort of start following. Oh my God, the next thing you know, maybe you're doing a YouTube channel, maybe you're writing, maybe you're not doing anything but just doing what my mom does. She works at a grocery store and she just brings in the light and she sheds the light to everybody, and that's her thing, And so it's just lightening up, like just relaxing with it as much as possible, and knowing that we're being held, and that it's all moving. Whether we see it or not, we're all moving. It's all happening, So there's nothing you can do. You can't do it right. You can't do it wrong.
Right.
There's no steps like, oh, you got to do step 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You got to read these books, or you got to follow these masters, or there's nothing. It's all within us. It's all in our DNA. It's all being sparked and ready to go. So you just go with it. You just honor yourself. You love yourself. You try to take care of yourself. And just give yourself whatever it is it wants, and start listening to your higher self. Start listening to that voice. Because the more you get connected to your higher self, the more you feel the light. So all you have to do, I'm just going to say this really quickly to the people listening. The easiest thing to do to bring in your higher self, it's so simple. There's no meditation you need to do. You just sit and you ask your crown chakra, the crown chakra right here. You ask your crown chakra to open up, please. I'm asking for my crown chakra to please open up. So you say, please, crown chakra, open up, or my crown chakra is opening up. You just breathe into that. You take some breaths, deep breaths, and you ask your crown chakra. So I'm asking for my crown chakra to open. The crown chakra is opening up, and then you ask your higher self, I'm asking for my higher self to please come into my body. Asking my higher self to flood into my body. I'm asking my crown chakra to open. I'm asking my higher self to come in. And it happens. And you can do it anywhere. When you're driving, when you're sitting, when you're sleeping, when you're in the shower, when you're talking to your kids, you can do it when you're eating dinner. I'm asking for my crown chakra to open. I'm asking for my higher self to come in. And the more you do that, the more you get used to it. Mm-hmm. And the more you feel that connection.
Yeah.
And the deeper you can sit in that breath and in that light coming in, the easier, you can start really feeling the higher self come in. But it's that simple. I mean, it's like opening up the crown and bringing in the higher self just by asking it, just by that intention, it starts to happen. And then doing that on a regular basis all the time. You can visualize it just sitting here right now. You can visualize it, and that's how you begin to do it. It's simple.
Yeah, we like to, thank you for that. Thank you. We like to make it complicated.
Yes, we do. It has to be hard, damn it. Otherwise, you don't get the benefits.
No.
It's gotta be difficult.
It's gotta work for it. It's gotta be.
Yes.
And it's gotta suck.
Yes.
And it's gotta be difficult, and we've got to earn it.
Oh, we have got to earn it. That's a good one. We must always earn it.
Yes.
Right? Oh my gosh. Yeah. No more, man. It's all right there. No more.
It's here.
Yeah.
It's here.
Yeah.
Thank you. So let me just see if we probably have like a little less than 10 minutes. So is there something that we could end the combo with, or something that you feel like is important to share?
There's so much.
I know.
Yeah. I don't know. Was there anything sparked within you that popped off?
Yeah, it's so much about just that feeling like there's this on and off switch, like we're compartmentalized, like we can be with our higher selves now, but when we're doing this, like it's almost like it's this segregated experience, and that's kind of how I felt it was like with this election, with people's messages who are people that I look up to in this community. And I felt like, well, we can be the light in these areas, but when it comes to this, I'm going to hold on to that. And we try and do it ourselves, and we try and human our way through it. And if you can just speak to that, it's a lot of the gentleness and the non-judgment, but just incorporating this into our full experience, and that letting go process.
That's the challenge, right? I
mean,
so that what you just spoke of is the ascension. Yeah. So that is the shifting of the third to the fifth. Yeah. Third dimension to the fifth dimension.
Yes, and speak to that too, like the third and the fifth, like what that means.
Yeah. So the third dimension is our duality, is our density, is our so in the third dimension there is a duality, there's a right and a wrong, there's a positive, there's a negative, there's good and evil. There is our ego is in charge. So our ego typically takes charge of our life. Not good or bad, just that's how we are functioning. Our DNA is carbon-based. We're dense, we're very heavy, we're not a lot of light, so we're dense people, and that's the third dimension. It's very, very heavy. And so as we begin to bring in the light, and our DNA begins to turn into a crystalline DNA, and it's no longer two strands, it's going to be 12 strands, which it always has been. As this stuff starts happening, light comes in, we become more of our light bodies, we begin to shift into this fifth dimension. So the fifth dimension is, we are much more, as we were talking about the higher self coming in, we are living with that light body within us. So you can imagine like, how could you imagine this? Like a really dense, maybe like a glass with a lot of dirt in it, right? And then as you start to pour in the water, the dirt starts to sort of funnel through, right? And the water is the light, and it starts to fill up, and it starts to dissolve the density in the darkness. And so when you're looking at the cup, there's still that form around it, our bodies, but it's much more light. And you begin to, so your ego is still here, it's intact. We don't lose our egos in the fifth dimension. It just begins to merge with our hearts. And so you are living through your heart center. And so everything you're doing is through a heart-centered focus. And so if you think about just those things, as we're shifting, right? So you're talking about going back and forth, that's what's happening. Yeah. Right? So you're like, here's my life. I need to live. I need to make money. I need to support my children. And I'm feeling like there's a higher purpose for me. I'm supposed to be doing something else. My heart is expanding. I want to become a vegan. I mean, all these things that are happening. Yeah. And so there's this is what's happening. This is fifth dimension. This is third dimension. This is fifth dimension. And this is what's going on with us. And just going with it.
Okay.
You know, there are days where you're like angry, frustrated, dense, F off, everybody sucks.
Yeah.
I even hate animals.
Yeah.
And then there's days where it's like, oh my gosh, I'm really feeling connected. I'm feeling like my heart is really open. I get it. I understand what's happening here. I'm right there with you guys. And that's what's happening. And eventually we will, I don't know when that's going to happen, but we will eventually all be living in this new earth, they call it, right? Everyone's calling it the new earth, the heaven on earth, all of that. But it's a process. It's a back and forth, up and down. And it's like we said in the very beginning, if you could see this physical shift, we would be like, oh Lord, that's intense, you know? But the more people understand mentally in their heads, because we like to think about, have that concept. If you can think about that concept, then then it makes a little bit more sense. Like, okay, I get this. I get, think about this, whatever these things are called. What are they called? What's the, I don't know.
Like the justice?
Like those things. Yeah, a scale. What's that thing called? A scale. Think of the scale, and that's what's happening right now. Third bit,
Yeah.
And then it just sort of is like, okay, today I'm way down on my third dimensional scale right now.
Yeah. It lets us off the hook. It gives us permission to be let off the hook. That's been a pattern of mine, right? I need to, if there's no logical explanation for my behavior, then I must be crazy or wrong or a mistake and, all that crap. So if there's a logical, I think that's what you're giving us. And it is true. And we know that and we feel that and we understand that, but we still have a hard time being gentle on ourselves with it. So I think this gives a really good way for us to just go with it.
Yeah, I mean, we are really, really hard on ourselves.
Yeah.
And we're breaking out of the old paradigms.
Yeah.
And we're beginning to live in a new paradigm, which is a paradigm of being in the present moment.
Yeah.
Knowing that you're completely taken care of no matter what. Knowing that you have the ability to manifest anything you want in your life. That you don't have to live in fear any longer.
Yeah.
There's these new paradigm shifts that are occurring that are challenging for us to believe.
Yes.
But the more you connect to higher self, I'm telling you, the more you're able to connect to your higher self, the more these things, the easier it becomes to shift into this fifth dimension, because miracles start to happen that you're like, oh, how'd that happen? And you're connecting to your higher self. So everything is happening perfectly in your life. It's beautiful when you're in your density of, I hate things, this sucks, I'm in fear. And it's beautiful when you're up here in the fifth. It's all beautiful. It's all happening. There's a reason for all of it. And you don't have to beat yourself up. And you're not doing anything wrong. And there's nothing that you have to do. It happens regardless of anything you do. You don't have to go to meditations. You don't have to read books. You don't have to, go and take the most amazing courses that are out there. You don't have to do anything. It's happening on its own. So take the pressure off people, it doesn't have, you don't have to do anything. You're doing everything perfectly just right now, being you. That's it. And focus bringing in your higher self, though.
Yeah.
That is something you should do. That you should do.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you so much. And I'm going to put your information on the YouTube information down below. And when we put it on social media, we'll put your information and people can contact you and follow you and learn more about you and be inspired more. But thank you so much.
Yes, thank you, Nikki. This was awesome. I had so much fun.
Thank you. I appreciate it, and I look forward to talking with you soon. And thank you all for watching.
Yes, bye everyone.
Bye.